picking up from where I left off this morning with trying to create some Azure functions to manage notifications for our PowerShell Live channel, um, so we can have multiple notification output streams like Twitter and Discord and Slack, all that good stuff. So where I left off is that in the project that I'm pilfering some of my stuff from, the Twitch lib webhook, there is a piece in here where they're doing from hex on the hash value that's in the header. I had to figure out what they were actually doing there. So it's right here. So the expected hash, which is the hash that is sent in the header, the x-hub-signature header, which looks like this up here. Zoom in a little bit so it's a little more visible. But yeah, it looks like there's an X hub signature and a SHA-256 equals and then something here. And grab only the hex value. So apparently this is hex formatted. I could be wrong, but I'm going to trust them that they figured this out. According to the documentation, it doesn't seem like that, but I don't know what they're referring to in SHA-256 here. Like, what is that? Is that like, what does this return and how? So I don't know. Anyways, I tracked it down in the source code. I had to open up the project, kind of track the source from there to find out what it was. And the reason why I can't find it's in this deprecated library that I can't even get anymore. So, and won't work with the .NET standard that 2.0 that we have to work against. So anyways, I tracked it in here to from hex, and then I tracked it back to the source code that Poshcode was so kind to provide a link to in the previous recording, previous video, live stream, whatever. So I tracked that over to here. So here is the from hex that's being run against it, and what it does is it converts a hex encoded string. I'm not really sure what a hex encoded string means or is. Familiar with base 64 encoding, and there's that in this file as well from base 64. This is from hex. Whatever. And the way that this function or method that they have in the original library works is that it takes in the string and the content header name, and it I'm not quite sure, like, why is this taking in the header name? I don't see, unless that's just for error messages. It takes in the content here and does some stuff. Anyways, I'm going to grab this and shove this into my utility and then work with it from there. So I need to close out of this project and open the project where I'm working on all of this in, so that VS Code and the C# plugin, don't freak out about me having 2C# projects open. And I need to go into my utility CS and plop in this code that I am judiciously stealing from that other thing after I do some space fixing. That looks almost right. Yeah, actually it's off. Anyways, I'll fix that later. So paste in this from hex here. Already defines a from hex member. Does it? Doesn't look like it does to me. Okay, that's some interesting error messages here. Squigglies galore. I'm going to look at the output. I probably need to do some cleanup on all of this. So I'm gonna get some space built in here. Fix these blank line entries so that that aligns properly. Fix this one too. So that aligns properly. Clean out this empty space and that empty space. So that looks decent for this. Alright, now I'm gonna do some cleanup on this just because. Delete the obj, move to recycle bin, Shift P, restart OmniSharp, view the output. See why it's complaining about everything. Make sure that it's not trying to load multiple config files again like it was last time. It looks like it's good there. But static async, public static from hex. There's certainly no logger in here. Task. So this one is because I don't have task, so I need to add the task library. And I don't know what voodoo magic happened in the past, but it's finally giving me the right kind of completion about different things here, giving me squigglies and all of that. So that's good that I'm getting some final real feedback on what's really wrong with this. So start from the top here and work this out. This is a spelling squiggly. I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to go ahead and add this to Workspace Dictionary, so it stops doing swigglies there for the spelling of something that's legit. So this array empty is it's winning typed. So what kind of type does this take? Bytes in the byte array. So I think that I need to do byte here to get rid of that error message. So drain async is not available on here. So what I'm going to do is go to this and play around with the dot completion on this and see if I can figure out what options we do have available on body. Begin read. There's no drain. Async. Yeah. So I need to see if I can figure out what that used to be on HTTP request and find some kind of analog for it. It's also like was passing in cancellation token none. Okay. In between these sessions, I was reading on the cancellation token and how to properly work with it inside of Azure Functions. I don't think that I'm quite ready to make that kind of step, but while I'm here and while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to add it to my to-do backlog, so I remember to look at that at some point. Proper cancellation token handling and async. Because there's a way that you can accept the cancellation token in from the run part of it, and it'll pass in a cancellation token that the running system will provide whether or not it's canceling. So you can pass that down into all of your asynchronous calls so they can be properly notified when cancellation is happening, should the function for whatever be killed in the middle or running VMs shut down or whatever could possibly cause cancellation in the middle of your task. So need to do some research on this drain async and see what it was doing before. So I'm going to go back to some Firefox here for drain async on HTTP request. And I'm going to have to use some quotes. And I get nothing for it. Because that would be running on, looking back at our code here, it runs on the HTTP request. So it acts like this body, which is stream actually. But I think HTTP request had a different shape to it in the earlier versions of ASP.NET Core. And maybe this is just some vestige, so I just need to find out what the drain async is actually doing. Or at least look back at this compute request body SHA-256 hash async and figure out what it does with the body afterwards. I don't think that I actually need to do anything on that. Unless that's unless the drain async was basically forcing the stream to reach the end first. I don't believe. If not, body can seek. I don't think that I need to do this. Oh well, I don't even know what that is. That's fun. Seek origin begin. So it looks like what this does is it like resets it to the beginning. I don't know how important that is. These streams on the HTTP request, if I remember correctly, they're kind of wonky, and we're pulling in the body of it after the body has already been parsed into the model. So we're saying that we want this stream data, and behind the scenes the request should get dumped into this during the JSON serialization. So it's possible that the body is already like messed up. Yeah, string values doesn't have a split on it, so that's a different. I'll have to fix as well. We'll come back to that. The takes the stream from the request body. Let me see if there's something I can do on the request body before I pass that to the stream request dot body dot. Yeah. Lifetime service, initialize lifetime service, seek. Right. Try this back here then. If body can seek, request dot enable buffering looks right, but yeah, I don't think that there's any kind of drain async. It's a really weird thing, and I can't find anything about it either. You know, it would be on a stream, because this was even a stream back in ESP Core, ASP.NET Core 1, right? So I'm pretty sure. I'm not even on. This is what I'm looking at here, is that this drain async, and trying to figure out where this all goes. So I'm going to do some more Googling on this, because I don't know, I'm at a loss. I don't know what that's trying to do. There's got to be some kind of stream helper extensions drain async method. What does it even do? Okay, but it looks like I can probably add it in by ensuring that Microsoft ASP.NET Web Utilities is there. But there's not one of these that just takes a cancellation token, which is all they're doing in there. But it does look like I can, oh, maybe this is a static. Let me see if I can do that. Stream helper extensions. Yeah, so this is in ASP.NET Core Web Utilities. If I go back here, add that in. Hopefully I've got this. And then where I had this, we use Stream Helper Extensions class. And this looks like it's a static, yeah. So I pass in the stream and the cancellation token. So train async, pass in the stream, which is request.body, and then cancellation token, which is cancellation token. Let's try this, just copy this. This should help me identify using system threading. Good. Insert a wait. Yep, so that's looks like a valid replacement for that piece of it. This is new to me though. Stream seek and then 0L and seek origin, which is interesting, but I'm not going to fight that. We'll just assume that all of this is right. All right, so now I've got that piece figured out. I'd have to pass in the log into this if I wanted to actually do logging. So I'm not quite sure that I care to actually try that. I could throw an exception, catch it, and parse the message as that and log it. And yeah, it looks like the signature header name is only used as a as an error here, so I can save myself a lot of pain by just getting rid of this logger warning. Yeah. All right. So going back here, I get a iLogger log. I'm going to take that into this utility here. and force that to, I believe it's extensions logging. Yeah. So I need to add the extensions logging up there. So now I have the logger. I don't need the header name. I'm just going to log that. This receiver name. Receiver name's not even there. It's some kind of like private variable, I guess, in the original source code that I'm stealing this from. So I am just going to take log warning. The value is invalid. I'm just going to say invalid hex string. Yeah, that looks better. Alright. So we no longer need that, but we do need to pass in the logger. Alright, so log that warning, and it takes data, and then if we get an exception, format exception, bar input 0, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to log warning and clean this up. Value is invalid. The is an invalid hex encoded string. It's the same thing as the other one, just a different way of being invalid. Man, they could have just thrown here, like just thrown an empty exception and caught it. Format exception is most likely 2-byte throws an argument exception, e.g. content contains a minus sign. Okay. Alright, so all my squigglies are gone now from the utility one. It looks like I've got my indentation fixed on this. Looks proper, at least as proper as it can be. Public static, they're all statics, public. All right. It smells like one of my neighbors here has caught their Christmas Eve dinner on fire or something. It's smelling like burnt food. So hopefully I'm not having to rush out of here and escape a fire. That would suck. It's not a good way to spend Christmas. Apartment living. Alright. So, utility looks good. Now I need to go fix all the squigglies in here. This is because I've got a one here is have the no code actions available. There was a way to do something before up at the top and it would automatically sort these for you. But I don't see it anymore. Not that it matters. It does make it easier to read what all you're importing and using though if they're sorted in some kind of logical way. Alright, so I've got squigglies in here, and that's because this signature doesn't have a split on it. Because it's a string values, and string values don't have all the normal string functionalities. And I think just toString works. Hopefully this is a dot split. That's weird. I'm pretty sure there should be double quotes and not single quotes. PowerShell, I try to single quote everything, but then whenever I start writing in C#, I get this bad habit of single quoting everything, and that doesn't work the exact same way. Alright, so I fixed that squiggly. Next one is this compute. It's not in this. It should, because it's a utility underneath here. Oh, I need utility. Yep. Alright. Super secret password. Alright, so before I do this, I need to do the from hex on that I was missing from before. So we need to look really quickly back at the source code I'm borrowing this from, just to check the logic for what I'm about to do here. Yeah, expected hash equals from hex. So I'm just going to copy that in. Utility from hex should work. Don't need to pass this in, but I need to pass log in, because I'm passing the logger to do some logging in that. So now if expected hash equals null, we're going to return. They're doing something here. I'm just going to do bad result object. So I'm going to say that the non-invocable member cannot be used like a method. Oh, new. Oh. Alright, so yeah, looking at this looks much more similar to what they have. So the next thing would be to grab this actual hash by doing this compute request body SHA 256 hash async and waiting for it. Okay, so the next thing that they do in this project is they get the secret key, they pass that in, they get the actual hash, and then secret equal expected hash, actual hash. So we're doing something fun here. Let's see what that is. No. Okay, another mystery thing. But if I look in this old project here, I'll find this secret equal somewhere. Protected static bool secret equal byte byte. Okay, so it's basically doing some byte analysis. Yeah, it's doing easy things first. If the references are the same, then yeah, it's definitely the same. If the input A is null or input B is null, or the length of each is not it. So this is basic, like byte equals byte, byte array equals byte array, are same equal true. That's really cute. And equal. That's a new one to me. What is that? Huh. I'm sure this is going to show up Visual Basic and equal operator, but no. All right. The AND assignment operator. An expression using the AND. Okay, so basically this, instead of quick opting out if it's true, they're just doing some really basic math. Okay, I can steal this code, I guess. Add it to my utility. CS here. Public. I guess these could all be protected. But I'm not going to stress too much about the access level of my stuff right now. So basically this takes in 2 byte arrays and checks them out. So to make sure I'm dealing in byte arrays here, not strings of some kind. But now I can go back here. It's like if not utility dot secret equal expected hash and actual hash. Alright, so need to add some logging in here. Log error. This is malformed. Malformed header. Missing. Add this one here. It's the same thing, it's a malformed header except the signature is null or empty. This one is invalid hex signature. That should be kind of redundant with what actually happens inside here. You know, I think that I want to fix that right quick because it makes no sense to log this double and the errors in this were basically the same. Basically, if this returns null, then there's a problem. So I'm gonna remove that. No longer ask for the log. Now I need to fix this by removing the log, no longer passing that in, as it's no longer needed. Fix this here. So this one is that the actual hash did not match the expected hash. All right. So at this point, if it gets to here, we have a valid webhook. It's got the signature that they sent matches it because we've parsed our content here and we've seen that it's all good. And then the hashes match. We've sent error messages, we've logged them, we've returned errors, we failed fast. That's good. So at this point is where we need to add the code to start enqueuing the items. So this requires us to do some, or me anyways, to do some digging around about how you do multiple outputs to the Azure storage queue. Because the way that I have it now is that it's really only meant to do one kind of queue action, but I don't know if I return a list of things, if that enqueues all of them or what. So I need to look that up and find out how that works. Before that, I'm going to take a quick break here. So we need to look into how to return multiple to this queue. So basically, I'm returning queue a string notification, right? So we need to look at how to return multiple in that. So there's going to be some Googling, do some Bingle, as Thomas taught me, some neat little corpse speak for doing Bing and Google. So I need to return multiple items to the queue. Azure function multiple queue items output. I'm sure that it's just going to be extremely simple. Output. Function creates a queue item. JavaScript example. Output configuration. Single queue message by using a method parameter such as out t, param name, property function. You can use the method return type instead of out parameter, and t can be any of the following. An object serializable as JSON, a string. If you try to bind to cloud queue message and get an error, make sure you have a reference to the correct storage SDK version. In C# or C# script, write multiple queue messages by using one of the following types. iCollector of T. That's cute. So basically I need to do an iCollector of T from that. So what is an iCollector of T? Azure functions. Developer reference. Yeah, but what is the... There we go. Oh, no reference on docs, I guess. It's probably just inside there. I'm going to try just creating one and see what I get. I have no clue what an iCollector of T is. I need to find something that implements it because I can't just smash anything into that. Try doing with I'd really like to know like some implementing types for how I create an iCollector of T. it actually does that. You can't just take an iList, man. That'd be great. Also take a cloud queue object. But I'm not exactly sure how I initialize that from the input object. I have to have the URI. Yeah, I don't have any examples here. Let me see if I can find some examples. To output a single item, but we need to support an array of items. This will apply to all bindings that supports iCollector, queues, blah blah blah. Post here. Can I get iCollector working for C# either? I would expect the following to work, but it doesn't. Oh, maybe I just take that in and do that. This one was closed, not merged. Here's an example. No! Oh, that's so sad. So apparently I can take in an iCollector of blah and add to it. So I'm going to try that. I don't know if it'll take my custom data object, but we'll try. iCollector of stream. And that's kind of ambiguous, maybe. Cute. So this should be I would have called this Twitch stream, but that's really ambiguous. If you have stream.io in there, I try to avoid naming my. Oh, actually, hi Joel. Sorry, I wasn't watching my chat judiciously. Also, I was still on my browser. Yeah, so I was looking for how to create an iCollector, and it looks like rather than creating it inside here, you actually request it as an input, they create it, pass it in, and then you update it and return it. So yeah, so I was trying to see, like, what do I have to do to actually use it? Because I'm like, yeah, it's an interface, but what? Like, you expect me to return an interface? So how do I implement it? Like, and there's no documentation on iCollector of T. So I was like, what do you want me to implement this as? But it looks like what you do is you in the Azure function, you request an iCollector of a type, and it passes it in, and then it will work. Yeah, this is janky. Like I don't really like how they've done this, but this was something that I kind of so there was a discussion about PowerShell Azure functions and how they should work. And one of the things that I mentioned is that I really wanted to work like the C# ones, because basically you tell it what you want when you're defining it here, and it passes it in, and then you update it inside the thing. You can return or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think that the echoing is my slideshow. I think I might axe this. It's kind of annoying anyways. That's my guess. So I've removed the slideshow from the background. Maybe that's that. No more cute anime girls for everyone. Sorry, it's so sad. But anyways, like that. One of the things that I like about the C# Azure Functions is that like you get all this stuff in, you request multiple things, and then you update it in here. And I was like, that should be how, like, I expect a PowerShell function in Azure to work the same way. I define a function, I say what my parameters are, you pass in that information, and then I update it inside there. Now, things like strings and ints and all that kind of stuff, you can't. So you have to have them in some kind of like iReturnable of int or iReturnable of t or something like that. I don't know. So I was like, implement something like that, and it'll work like this, right? All the stuff that I'm going to either work in or out comes in as a parameter or argument in this case. And then I update it in here. And then I can return other stuff too, like I can return a bad result, blah, blah, blah. And the implementing code figures out what the hell to do with it. So that's how I wanted it to work. I kind of didn't pay attention to where that conversation went, but I hope they at least took some of that feedback to heart. Right, so what I need to do now is that it is possible that I could have more than one stream data has data on it, so this webhook, I need to basically for each item works for me in webhook dot data. So this is a list of stream, an iList of stream that gets created, and that stream, and again, stream not in system.io stream, but stream is in their data model. Great idea. So what I need to do is I need to take that queue, add item, and then just return queue. And that, in theory, is how... Oh, this is fantastic. To an iAction result. Oh. So I need to action result this. Yep. What now? That should be right. All right. What are the... I'm pretty sure that that's all I had to do. Let me look at the example that I give for this. New action result. Why can't I get the overloads? No code actions available. Result. No. I think OK result. Since it tells me that's not right either. There's no way that's right. Anyways, let me create a example one and steal from it judiciously. Functions, new function. I'm going to go back while that's waiting forever to load and look at yeah. Request.create response. Status. I might not need to do anything. I just might need to send an OK because it should have the collector that I'm taking back and doing that. So we're going to play with this by just doing OK object result. Thanks for the follow, Adelio. I thought you were already following me. Did you stop following me? Did I scare you off? So I don't need to send anything back to that, I don't think. So the contract with Twitch for the webhook is that I think they just need to submit their payload and they expect a 200. I don't think they expect any kind of response at all. I think they don't even care. So extensions, find the right stream changed, yeah. So example payload for a stream offline event. Well, I'd need to know who is offline, right? That's weird. You're gonna send me an empty payload. So I have to have a different endpoint for every single user? Extreme user ID. Yeah. Okay, so I see. It's in my this is topic. Is this for? That's how you request it. But this payload is weird. like sending me an empty array when a user goes offline doesn't help if I've got multiple users. So that means that I have to create the same, I have to create basically a dummy function of the same code at all the various endpoints or accept a user ID as a piece of the route, and then work with it there. This really uses the user ID and not the username, because that's painful. Yeah, I can deal with that later. The good thing is, like, I'm only really interested when users go online, so I don't necessarily care too much when a user goes offline. But that'll be something to look at down the line. Okay. So yeah, it's not expecting to have anything returned when it drops its payload off. It just expects it to be done. So I don't need to return anything other than that. So in theory, this is now okay. I update the queue with all my items. Then I send an OK result. Usually this is going to be one item, but they do it as an array, so it's possible that there's more than one event going on, and we'll have to deal with that as it comes out. I'm sure this is going to be filled with bugs when I first start actually using it. Oh man, like, data structures are such a pain point on APIs. They're like, I've dealt with so many APIs. Reddit is a huge example of like the worst data structures in the world for what your API returns, because their data structure will change for the same endpoint for the same request that you send to it based on like whether or not it has more than one response in it. So let's say you're getting messages, right? Instead of always sending an array of messages, it'll send like a single message, or it'll send an array of message. But also, like, if you happen to have an older message in it before the new message API was in there, the message shape will be different in there. So if you're going back through your history, suddenly you've got multiple types of message models in there that you have to work with. And then within those message models, they change based off of whether it was a deleted message, a blocked message, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, oh, come on, just give me the same data type consistently with different values in the fields. Pick one. I got sick of writing my wrapper for Reddit. I just gave up, because after they started breaking their APIs without notifying you and without letting you choose like a version of the API, it would just break it. Make breaking changes to data models, make breaking changes to the API endpoints, make breaking changes to the expected inputs. I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to write a thing on this. Yeah, the response changes because in the database, they probably are using like, a document database of some kind for the messages, and they updated their document schema going forward to some kind of different one, but they don't adjust the schema from what's in the actual data to what they send you, so you get like the raw backend data schema. And instead of like updating it so that older messages come through the same, it's so painful. and you don't even like have a good clue of when that date is when they made that change. So there's no way to do it. You just have to be able to basically accept an amorphous blob as a message and then apply a ton of business logic to work through the model of that data. And hopefully you arrive at something that makes sense. And if not, you just, say, hey, I couldn't parse this message. Notify the developer. Right? It's like, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I applaud the people who do the Python wrapper for Reddit, because them staying on top of all that crazy and making it work well is a testament to their fortitude. Because I definitely won't do that. I give up on that. I think that this is good. And that's a little bit further than I expected to get with this round of this. Oh yeah, you would think that, right? Except that when you look at their like message parsing code, it's it like has all the same kind of business logic, so you can kind of like do that. But yeah, it's like you would think that since you have to use all of the same stuff, that you would realize that your data schema is weird. I don't know. And honestly, this might have changed. They might have completely replaced the API because I stopped looking at it a year ago. But it's definitely like I was working on the PowerShell-based Reddit API wrapper for 2 years, and in that time, like it just changed so much and constantly broke that I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna try. I had so many issues with it, just inconsistent data models. And like they have this thing like a Reddit ID, right? And you would think that you would have an endpoint where you can take a Reddit ID and put it in and get back that object. So like, but no, there's no like single endpoint. So you have to like take the Reddit ID and like parse it and figure out what kind of type it is from that, and then go to the correct endpoint and pull the item. It was like, why can't you do that for me? Alright, so I think that this is in working order. Utility no longer has squigglies, and squigglies were working this session around. The function no longer has squigglies. I've got some decent logging added here. I think that I've approached this properly. I don't have all the infrastructure in place to test it, and I realize I can do some local testing on this and stub all this stuff out, but I'm not going to bother with that. The next step that I need to do is actually work on the notification pieces, and I need to do some research, and I'm not going to bore everyone with Google searches for Twitter API. I think that's a bad idea. So I'm going to call this one here and thank everyone for coming out, and have a good holiday.